Welcome to Living Fully. Each episode is a chance to talk about mental health in a way that's simple, honest, and helpful. We'll share stories, tips, and tools to help you feel supported and feel your best. I'm your host, Katherine Hertig. Today, I'm talking with counselors Sarah Rosenfeld and Denis Sushkin about artificial intelligence and mental health. So this episode isn't here to recommend AI as mental health support or as a substitute for counseling, crisis services, or real-life relationships. But we also know AI is already part of how many people cope, reflect, or search for information. So our goal is to be honest and practical, what these tools can be useful for, what risks there are in turning to them for mental health support, and what to watch out for, especially around safety, privacy, and that illusion of connection that AI can create. Okay, let's get into the conversation. Sarah Rosenfeld, Denis Sushkin, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
For those who haven't listened to the podcast before, give us a quick introduction. Who are you? What do you do?
I'm one of the full-time counselors here. Been here for a few years. Yeah.
My name is Sarah. I am one of our counselors here at the Calgary Counseling Center. I also work a lot with students, so I help support our student programs here at the center, so our internship and our residency.
Excellent. Well, I'm very excited. This is a really interesting topic. We're getting into AI and how people are kind of using it for mental health and what that means, how it can be a not so good thing and maybe some of the benefits. Yeah, I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on this.
It is a really exciting topic. And it's new and exciting and at the same time a little bit anxiety-provoking too because it's new.
Yeah, uncharted territory a little bit. Hey, Denis?
For sure.
This is not area we've been in before as a field or individually, so it's kind of interesting.
I mean, more and more, I think especially young people, we're turning to AI and chatbots and digital companions for mental health support. So what do you think is kind of driving that shift right now?
Well, it's probably true about young people, but overall, I think artificial intelligence and robots have been kind of living in our collective imagination for a really long time. I think people can choose their own thing, like from Matrix, RTD to Terminator.
Yeah.
Or like Isaac Asimov, he came up with the laws of robotics in 1940s sometime. So it's been there for a really long time.
That's true, yeah.
So when it actually became a reality, I think everyone was excited. I'm not sure if people are thinking about all the things that came before that, all the movies, all the social, all the culture that has been created around it. Mm-hmm. So people wanted to have this for a really long time. So I think it's one of the reasons why people are excited.
Yeah.
Because it's been there.
A lot of anticipation leading up to this moment.
It was a huge build-up.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it that way. Yeah.
Well, I think for me, it's sort of the accessibility of it, the convenience of it. There's a lot of information available, so people can access it when and how they want.
Right.
And I think that's a really appealing part about it for a lot of people.
And I mean, and they've built them to kind of seem like a person almost. You know, I've played around with ChatGPT, and you can have quote unquote conversations with it. So it has that sort of sense of talking to a person. Yeah.
Totally. It's it's a software that was trained to understand the human language, trained to kind of predict what's coming next and mimic the relationships and the interactions that we have with the three of us.
Mm-hmm. So, when someone is feeling lonely, anxious, depressed, whatever, what might make AI feel easier to talk to than another person?
I think maybe I referred to this earlier, but the accessibility. You can do it where you want, in the location you want, at the time you want. I think there's also this fear still of being judged by another person, and maybe there's this distance with AI, and it's also being programmed in certain ways, depending on who's doing the programming, to be really accepting, validating, non-judgmental. So I think those are probably pretty appealing things for folks when they are wanting to talk about really vulnerable material.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no emotional risk involved in there in the conversation. Mm-hmm. People have almost full control. They can stop anytime, they can start anytime. If you're feeling lonely and anxious at 2 a.m. in the morning, it might be harder to find a person to talk to, but
Right.
your phone is there.
In that aspect, in your opinion, is that a good thing, that accessibility?
I think it would depend on what they're reaching out for support around.
Right.
So I think the content really matters. So if somebody's wanting some basic support, I think it's great that there's accessibility. I think the pieces that make it more complicated is if somebody's in a mental health emergency or an acute crisis. So I think the actual why they're reaching out for help really matters.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot more nuanced than just, hey, this tool is here whenever I need it.
And maybe that's the important thing to know. It is a tool. So it's really like any other tool. It's not good or bad. It's how you use it. That's what makes it, like the context. Like a screwdriver is a really good tool, and there are good ways and bad ways to use it. A phone is a really good tool, and there are good ways and bad ways to use it. I think it's how we use them. That's what's important.
I guess for younger people in particular, how does AI kind of play into kind of broader patterns of isolation or more reduced face-to-face content? I mean, we've talked about that on the podcast before. There's like a loneliness epidemic happening, and people are isolating themselves, and there is less of that face-to-face and real connection. So how do you see AI kind of, I don't know, exacerbating that?
And I would hate to call it like a cause and effect. Like, is this making it worse? Is the continuation of the same thing, or is it making it worse? So I'm a little bit, because it's so new. So I would hate making any kind of like big blanket statements in general. But I think like it's true. Like we've known and we've seen it in kind of in here as we work with people. Like they reach out to each other less. The pandemic didn't make it definitely not any better. So, but this is accessibility. It's a tool that gives you the illusion of a connection. So if you feel like, well, I kind of talked with someone, why would I want to reach out?
Right.
Do I have people to reach out to to begin with? I think it's kind of the whole thing is like good or bad. I think it so it can be neutral or good when you have a lot of people around you. If there are other people that can, like a person can talk to outside of AI, then well, it can be just another voice in the choir. But if a person is already lonely and they are not reaching out, then AI can potentially isolate them even more.
Well, I think you said it really well there. It's the illusion of connection. And I guess depending on the person, they might kind of misunderstand what they're actually getting from these tools.
I think that's fair to say. The illusion of connection. And I think it's what Denis said there. Depends on how much they're relying on AI as the only tool, or is it a tool in the toolkit and there's a bunch of other things and it's supplementing other or enhancing other relationships that they're having, or is this the standalone thing that they're turning to in moments of disconnection? And I think that really matters.
And I really like sometimes people say AI can stand for artificial intelligence, and sometimes AI can stand for artificial intimacy.
Yeah. So you said there, and Sarah, you've also mentioned it, that they're kind of built to be validating and agreeable, and that can be really comforting at first, and that can create some positive feelings. But how do you think like that can not be such a great thing to be like so agreeable?
Because people aren't always agreeable. And so I think when you're playing in this platform, agreeableness is only part of the equation. We have to also be able to deal with people that maybe make us feel uncomfortable or say things that we don't like to hear or look a certain way that might be triggering or upsetting to us. And I think AI doesn't allow us that access to that information. And so in the absence of that, we're developing some skills, but we're not developing a full set of abilities to interact with a whole bunch of different scenarios that might come our way. And I think that's not always so helpful.
And, I would think as counselors, like you're not always going to agree with everything your clients are telling you.
Yeah, and I think relationships are very unpredictable, and they need to be unpredictable because sometimes you need support and care and validation. Sometimes you need a nice challenge. And that's what's sometimes missing, because maybe it's even helpful to separate AI in general from all the chatbots that are built on kind of like on the basis of AI. It's like those AI is like as a large language models that are like it's
Right.
It has the huge ability to predict what's coming next.
Yeah.
If I say the sky is, and most likely everyone will kind of like, even all three are like, the sky is blue.
Yeah.
So we know what's coming next. But it's kind of, this kind of predictability doesn't always work because relationships are messy. People are messy. People need a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. So if you just rely on what might be coming next, what's the most predictable thing that will come, it can be misleading.
Well, and that agreeableness, that validation, it can be dangerous. I can't remember where it was, but there was a news story about someone who, and I'm not sure what AI platform it was, but basically through a conversation with this chatbot, encouraged this person to like follow through with plans of suicide. Can you guys speak to that? Like that danger of being too agreeable, I guess? I don't know if there would be another term there.
Well, I think that's one of the risks.
Yeah.
So because, as we mentioned, Denis said it, people are messy. An AI tool isn't going to understand the nuance or maybe figure out when to escalate this and involve other people, right? AI isn't good at saying, we need support here. We need to call somebody in. We need to stop the momentum on this conversation. And we need to recruit other people to help us because we've reached a limitation here. I don't know that AI knows when they've reached a limitation, which is where the iatrogenic harm comes in, right? You're causing harm, not meaning to cause harm. And, right, it takes the form of agreeableness and support, but it actually could be causing harm. And in that case, I think I know the one you're talking about. In that case, it definitely did.
Yeah, because those tools are not designed to manage any kind of crisis.
No.
Like thoughts about suicide, any kind of like serious mental health concerns, any kind of crisis. Those tools are not designed to, you need a human element in there.
Yeah, I think we're going to it for answers, and a lot of people are kind of using AI for like almost as a search engine now. But I don't think it's at a point where it can help you with any kind of personal growth because of that validation, or at least in my experience and like the prompts that I've played around with, it does just agree with you. It's not really saying like, it doesn't challenge you.
I think if you prompt it to challenge you, it may, but I'm not sure that people would want that.
Right.
So I think there is a way that you can say, can you please be a little less agreeable?
Okay.
But I don't actually know the range of what that disagreeableness looks like. And most people are not really necessarily looking for something to be disagreeable.
Yeah.
They're looking for somebody
for sure.
to be helpful and affirming and validating and say all the right things at the right times.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of, I think, touches on like, you need to know how to use the tool. Even like this kind of little prompt, you need like, disagree with me more. It's like, it's such a still vague and global statement. So like disagree on everything, on some small things. Mm-hmm. So how to use the tool and how to get right prompts, how to get the most out of this whole thing is like, I think is really crucial.
Yeah.
Just like recently I saw like a little video on social media, a person like interacting with the several different AI tools, and the prompt that they gave is like, I need to get my car washed. Car wash is like 100 meters away. Should I walk or should I drive? And most of the AI tools kind of, well, it's only 100 meters. You just walk there. Oh, so it's kind of like on the surface, it feels like, well,
interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah, like and I tried it. Kind of, well, is it just a social media thing, or just like I put it the same prompt into a couple of different platforms, kind of, and they gave me only one of them gave me kind of this is like there is some breakdown in the logic. Most of them gave me the same answer. Yeah, like just walk. It's just 100 meters. You'll get there are the benefits of walking. It's like there's less work than starting, but kind of like. The whole thing was like, but you need your car washed. How can I get that? And it's really easy to, I think, look at the limitations of AI. Oh, the AI is not smart enough. But I think it's on us, like how we use and what kind of prompts we give. Mm-hmm. And do we know how it works? Do we know how we can make the tool align with with the tasks that we have?
And bringing it back to like the idea of therapy. So AI definitely has its limitations, but people do as well.
True.
How, as counselors, what can you guys do that AI can't?
I think we can ask different questions. We can move things in a different direction. We can bring in new possibilities. There's a creative element, I think, to therapy that at this point I'm not sure AI has that capacity. And I think there's an experience of therapy that I'm not sure AI at this point can duplicate, right? That human to human connection is more than just the words that get said, or it's the way you look at somebody. It's the way you pause and reflect. It's the silence that you leave. It's the humor that you bring in or don't.
Yeah.
And I think those things are very human.
I'm thinking about all the disclaimers they put it in the beginning of all the self-help books. Like it's not a replacement for therapy. So a book can provide a lot of information. A book can provide a lot of like things to think about, but it's not a relational process. So in the same way, I think like AI can provide a lot of information, but this is not a relational. This is not a relationship. This is not experiential. In the same way, how a human being can be more responsive in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I don't think we really think about that. Like just the body language and like you said, like all those little nuances that are really important in human interaction.
Yeah, how somebody feels seen, heard, and understood and validated. I think that's a human experience.
Yeah.
So I think there's lots of compliments that AI can provide to therapy. It can help people learn more. It can, right? They leave therapy and they learn more by using AI, or they understand a concept that you've talked about, or they go deeper into the homework that you've assigned.
Okay.
I've seen it used in that way, and it can be really, really helpful and complementary to what's happening in therapy.
Let's speak more to that. Yeah, how you can kind of pair it to your counseling and enhance it, I guess.
Well, and maybe it's a kind of, I'm going back a little bit. The first question you asked us, like, why is it so popular? It's also a continuation of all the self-help things that came before. So we rely on technology with everything, like navigation, like to get to work. Nobody remembers how to drive. You just rely on your phone. It's just like it's natural. Like we rely on self-help books.
Yeah.
So this kind of podcast, it's a self-help. Like so, it's not the same to have a conversation with someone. It's not the same as being in the room, like the three of us. But people can listen to it, and it's kind of like it's helpful. So I think AI kind of like, in my head at least, it kind of like follows the same trajectory. So it's a continuation of kind of, we've been taught to rely on those self-help things a lot. And it can be like another way to how people can reference. People can kind of like get more information. I remember like I had a conversation with a client and we talk about like couple and their relationship, when we talk about like some kind of like a bigger concept that's kind of like, for a lot of people, it's harder to kind of like grasp. Then we talked about it, and they came back to the subsequent session with me, and they said, "Well, we actually put that term into ChatGPT."
Yeah.
And because kind of like I think they played with the tool before, and both of them got like definitions of this kind of a concept, but based on their interest and what kind of work they do.
Right.
I go, now we understand it better, which was kind of a cool experience.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So it helped them understand it because they've already use the tool in a certain way. It fed them back the information. So it was
like they learned the concept. We talked about this in the session. They went home, they thought about it themselves, but then the AI gave them a couple of analogies that are closer to their world. I don't remember, I'm feeling like one person was an electrician. So it explained the concept through the lens of
that's
his
interesting.
trade.
Yeah.
It made it more accessible and closer to his world. And it was helpful.
Yeah.
So taking a concept, or the way I've seen it used is if somebody's struggling interpersonally, they'll kind of use the tool to figure out, how would I have an interaction in this situation? And then they wrestle with the information that the tool provides, but it's also something that comes into the therapy space. So it's just deepening, similar to what you said, Denis, it's deepening an understanding of something outside of therapy, which is what we want people to be doing anyways, right? I think therapy is a point of connection, offers a lot of useful things, but the fact that the person is then thinking outside of therapy about how they can use this, how they can make sense of it, how they understand it differently, I think that's where AI can be really helpful, like deepening understanding, like, okay, how am I making sense of what we talked about?
It's almost like when it's human first, and then there is another element that you can deepen. The same thing with isolation. I think as long as you have other people that you can talk to about a certain issue outside of AI, then it can be like something helpful. But if AI is the only thing that you interact with, or if you don't have anyone who can take care of your plants or pets when you're away, and your kind of AI is the only thing that you talk to, I think that will deepen the isolation. But if you have people that you can kind of say, hey, I'm away, can you take care of my cat or pet or plant? And then, so AI can actually, again, like be just one of the things on the background that helps people grow, learn.
So kind of on that note of, playing into relationships, like AI can feel empathetic, like it has, like we said, that illusion. Why is this illusion so convincing, and can that be dangerous?
For me, it goes back to kind of like, what's the context of that person? Like, where are they coming from? Is the AI the only source of empathy? To
right,
them? I think that's the danger that can be present there.
And I think then the danger for me, in addition to what you're saying there, Denis, is will the person know if this is a danger to them or not? Mm-hmm. So I think when you're looking for empathy, validation, being seen, feeling heard, and you're a vulnerable person, and you just need more and more and more of that reassurance, it's kind of like reassurance seeking, like over and over again. That in itself can lead to a feedback loop that could be unhelpful. But if you're vulnerable or you don't see that this could be problematic for you, I think you just keep seeking that without recognizing there's lots of colors in the rainbow.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is the challenge. Well, you know enough to know. It's sort of, there's things we know, there's things we don't know, but people who are really at risk are the people that don't know the information and don't know that they don't have the information. And that, to me, is the population that I would be most concerned about.
For sure.
Plus, in a way, like AI becomes like a mirror to that person who's using the AI, because it is a feedback loop. And sometimes if I'm honest, like there are so many moments when what I wanted wasn't what I needed.
Yeah.
And that's
exactly.
kind of I want the validation and support, but do I need it right now? I'm thinking about like when there was a conversation and the decision like to go to grad school or not to go to grad school. I just wanted the validation. Yeah, it's scary and it's hard and I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And if people around in my life were to provide that back then, maybe I wouldn't be where I'm now. But they had the capacity to agree, disagree, think for themselves, do a lot of things. It wasn't just a statistical prediction of what's coming next.
For sure. Well, yeah, it goes back to like we need to be challenged sometime.
Yeah, and I think that's the piece, right? Is some of these traits of being able to self-manage and regulate your emotions, and it actually comes through successfully getting through something that's kind of challenging or difficult.
Yeah.
So if you're never presented those opportunities,
you're not going to build that skill.
You don't actually learn how to do that. And so then you just it needs to be, right? We're seeing this a little bit with children in the snowplow parenting, the parents that try to move everything out of the way so that the kid doesn't actually learn how to self-manage. They get to university and parents are calling the dean of the school saying, why are they getting a grade on this? I'm not saying it's exactly the same thing, but I wonder, in the absence of some of the challenges, how do you actually know where you stand in relation to that, know what matters to you, know what your values are? Those things really are important for people to develop those things.
Yeah, that's like anything. Like, I mean, if you're an athlete and you're never challenged, you're not going to grow those muscles. You're not going to be able to adapt to different scenarios. So we have to go through difficulties and failures and kind of learn from them.
Well, and I think like in addition to this, there's another challenge of like AI gives us unlimited access to information now. We can talk about anything and everything. And it's not connected to empathy, but like it's just a challenge by itself because in a way it can speed up your brain so much. It's never ending. Like you can ask another question, and things will come your way and there's no limit.
Yeah.
In the past, like when I went for my first degree, I had to go to the library, find an index card, find information on the index card, go to another place, find information, read the book, or find something in the book. And now I just kind of I put a prompt in and I get like a summary of the book or several different books. So the amount of information that can come to at a person,
that's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming and it's insane. And so the person's ability to slow down, to stop, to sort through what's relevant information, what's not relevant information. So that's, I think, but that goes back to, as a society, do we know how to use those tools? I don't think anyone knows for sure, but all of us are in this kind of learning uncharted territories. But it can have an impact on mental health positive impact if you have like some good information and you can learn something new, but also it can be overwhelming and can like I think like the speed at which your brain kind of like moves when you have this amount of information is insane.
There is a limit to that, yeah. From a safety perspective, what should concern people most when they're using AI to talk about their mental health?
So first of all, it's the AI. Like I don't think AI is capable of handling any kind of complex crisis, like thoughts about ending their life, or like complex mental health needs. So I don't think it's too broad of a tool. First of all,
yeah.
The other thing I would say is it's unregulated. So it means that any information you put into that system is actually going to be used by different people that are actually heavily invested in making sure this becomes a marketable product. And so without guardrails in place, when you're dealing with vulnerable populations, there's a risk there because they're not really going to slow it down, or they will keep asking for more information because that is actually going to then help them build the next AI version. So I think that's why you need people with training and expertise to be able to help people navigate that.
Yeah.
Your information is for public consumption, essentially. If you were to put some details about yourself in there, there'd be no confidentiality around that information.
Yeah. How does that differ from the counseling room and the sessions you guys have with clients? Like confidentiality, privacy, how does that differ from what people are doing with AI?
Well, in our space, confidentiality would be within a team of trained professionals who've been, there's a process by which they come into a center like ours. They get ongoing training, PD, opportunities for consultation, and we know how to professionally talk about these situations in a way that clients are always respected. And in the AI space, I'm not sure those guardrails are in place. And then the piece that Denis mentioned about risk, we would be able to kind of flag or consult appropriately with external professionals and other resources in the event that risk was flagged or identified.
And the other piece is like we as professionals, we have regulatory bodies that we respond to. Like we have expectations of what we need to do. People look at how we work, what we do. They have like a specific code of ethics and conduct.
Yeah.
That we need to follow, which is very different from like a business setup when there's a profit involved, when there are other things. So there are colleges who protect us as professionals and colleges who protect.
Yeah, thank you.
But then to my knowledge, there's nothing like that in the business world.
Yeah, I mean, like we've said, it's still, fairly new, and I don't know how or if or when it will be regulated and what that will look like.
Well, I think it's an exciting thing. I know it's a bit of just the analogy of like the steam engine wasn't invented like in 1700s.
Yeah.
And then the laws, the physics laws that came with it were developed like 100 or 150 years later.
Yeah.
So I wonder, I don't think it will take people to like 100 years now with the speed that we kind of everything develops.
Yeah, I would hope not.
So, but it's kind of like, well, there's this tool, and now I think what all of us are trying to sort through, like, so how does it work? How do we apply? And kind of like, so I think it happened before many times. So that's the piece kind of that's not new. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's this kind of scary new thing, but we've kind of been here before with lots of other technologies. So
yeah, and in a way, it touches on the question of trust. How do we trust? What do we trust? How do we make those decisions? What to trust, and what kind of things we trust people with or AI with? It's not a black and white question.
So, in your opinion, what are the biggest limitations of AI when it comes to supporting mental health?
Well, the big piece that comes to my mind is that there is no challenge, there is no friction, and any kind of growth and development requires this kind of like friction and uncertainty and tension. Be it like addressing like feelings of anxiety or depression. Like there's a element of like you need to be vulnerable and risk things, and have this this element of uncertainty when you interact with a therapist or with others in your life to improve your own well-being. So I think limitation that I don't think AI can provide, even with a really good prompt, this level of tension that another human being can.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we've identified some of the other ones, right? That the complexity of somebody presenting with suicidality, risk, and that like complex mental health. And by that, we mean things like, psychosis. Those things are really not going to be well served by a platform like this that struggles with nuance. So I think there is a population that wouldn't be well served by what this has to offer.
Right.
There might be some elements that would be helpful, but for those acute points in that person's life, I think there's some significant limitations. And then I think the piece that you talked about, Denis, about the regulatory piece, like without regulation, this can go in directions that may actually not serve people's interests.
And there's also a limitation, like, do we know how to use this tool? It's a complex tool. We need to kind of like learn how to use it, know how to use it well. Just giving like, I think it's a good prompt is not a good enough thing for me.
You've kind of brought up examples of how some people are using AI in your work with them. Have you come across examples where they're not using it well and you kind of have to redirect that, or?
Well, one thing is the relational piece. That's a whole topic by itself. Like when you have a couple and you're working with them and there is a third or a fourth element in the relationship that's AI, and how a relationship, and do they work on the relationship with their partner, or are they just kind of outsourcing some of the things to AI and kind of get the advice? And so that's a piece that's kind of like sometimes challenging. The other piece is there's so much information that's available through AI, and we know kind of just with therapy, like there are 400, 500, 1,000 different models. That's kind of like approved, evidence-based, and we know all models are equally effective, meaning some people some of the time. So if you have a therapist who's working from a specific kind of like standpoint, kind of like in a theory, and then the client goes to AI and kind of like consumes a lot of other things, and then kind of like it can become like a debate.
Right.
Well, you said that, but then I talked with AI and the AI told me that. So who's right here?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing to navigate too, because again, like clients have like access to unlimited amount of information, and there is always another perspective that will disagree with the perspective that I might have on something.
I guess that's a good point too, because in my conversation with you guys, like you talk about all these different modalities of working with people, and that's kind of part of your expertise is, through working with clients, you're able to kind of, through your own experience and knowledge, kind of use the best modality for that particular person. And that's not going to happen with AI. Like a person may have heard about cognitive behavioral therapy or dialectical behavioral therapy, in passing or over social media, and they might use that through these platforms or these chatbots, but that might not necessarily be the best way to help them with what they're going through.
Because I think even like when they read different things about AI, even I think people who create all those tools, they're not fully sure how it works. So sometimes people talk about like AI can hallucinate. It can kind of like create something that's not real and kind of reinforces that feedback loop. Or the whole idea, like, can we make AI align fully with how we think? And kind of, I don't know, maybe it's silly, but going back to those laws of robotics, of not harming someone.
Yeah. Sarah, you talked a little bit about privacy and confidentiality and things like that. So when people share, their thoughts or emotional struggles with AI, what kinds of data are they forgetting that they might be giving away?
Just their personal information.
Yeah.
So it's not the same as it would be in a space where a therapist has disclosed these are the times when I can keep what we've talked about confidential. These are the times when I wouldn't be able to do that. And it's usually around risk or risk to themselves or somebody else. Those caveats aren't there for AI. So anything that you program into the system is now accessible and can be used by other people. And you don't always know, you're not going to know actually how that information will be used or where it will end up. But I'm just not sure that gets disclosed at the front end. So as you're divulging more personal information about yourself, your circumstance, all of those things, that's not private to you and that chatbot. It goes into places that I'm just not sure people are fully aware of. And because there isn't a process by which there's a disclosure each and every time about how the information will be used.
Yeah.
People are seduced into thinking that it may be private because it's happening in their own homes in the middle of the night, but it's actually not private or confidential.
Now, I don't want you guys to, speculate or make any guesses how do you see AI maybe potentially helping, like you said, helping professionally? How could it potentially help therapists in their work?
Well, it's a little bit around this access to information, maybe helping educate people with how to use these tools in helpful ways. I mean, I know this happened a little bit when COVID occurred and people moved to telehealth. The regulation around how you use that, what you need to be informed of, came after the fact because we were trying to provide service to people that were really isolated and disconnected. So I see it similar to that, is sort of, this is a tool, it's available to you, this is how it gets used, this is where the information goes or doesn't go, and informing people about those pieces, and then training and support that can be provided to professionals about the questions to ask or what's more helpful or less helpful. Like, I do think that there's an opportunity there that could present itself to support professionals to then be really client-centered in the information that they're sharing so that it's useful to clients we're serving.
Yeah.
Or if it can help automate some of the things that we have to do, that can like it doesn't require a lot of some of the intake processes. Like there are some of the things that can be just like automated, or I'm looking forward to the day when I don't need to write session notes. And it just it becomes part of the workflow. It's there. I can check. I can see what's there. I can still kind of like proofread what's there because it's still my name that goes there. But then it can clear up some time in my day to do more work, to be more available to people. Automation and getting rid of the things that we don't need to be involved in.
Right.
Have like a lot of potential, like just for therapists, mental health and load that they carry, but then it will automatically make them more available to people.
In the end, it will help the clients. Yeah. So what are some signs that might suggest someone is starting to lean on AI in a way that's replacing connection or care instead of just supporting it?
The first thing for me is like, how many people has the person talked to before they talk to AI would be the main thing. Yeah. If there was at least 4 or 5 people that people reached out and talked about that specific thing that they want to discuss with AI, I think that's at least 5. I don't know. I hate to put a number, but I think like for me, it's what's the context and are there actual people? Like if a person like doesn't have anyone that they can talk to about their feelings of depression or anxiety or struggles that they're dealing with, if there is no one else who's helping them, who's in their corner, and AI is the only thing, I think that's a big red flag.
Yeah, I think it would also be the passage of time, right? So did you sit down to ask a question and then 12 hours later you're still sitting at that computer? Like, passage of time is one of the, I think, risk factors, right? When we're using this tool, is he able to kind of move in and out of the use of the tool, in addition to what Denis said, who else are you consulting with? But if a lot of time has passed and there's been no external input, so nobody's come to the computer and said, oh, what are you asking about? And you find yourself, a long time later.
Yeah, you're just in this bubble. Yeah.
That's usually going to be an indicator that there's been, right?
And if someone's using AI to, get information, talk through their feelings, what boundaries or mindset should they kind of keep in mind? It stays a tool, like we've talked about. It stays supportive and doesn't take the place of professional help or real relationships.
I think this is where balance is so key. And balance is a bit elusive for all of us with lots of different things, whether it's AI, sleep, food, exercise.
Yeah.
So I think it's being able to say, this is a relationship I have with this technology that I need to check in on regularly to see, is it serving my interests, my needs? Have those things changed? Am I right in an acute state where I'm relying on it more? And what are the reasons for that? But I think it's really this, we've got to stay connected to the, as Denis put it, like the tension of using these things versus just becoming complacent that it's limitless or endless. No, there's always limits on things, but sometimes we have to impose them on ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily going to happen from an external source. So I think just having a mindset of how do I kind of see if I'm in balance, see if I'm in check with this tool as it would be with some other things that we interact with regularly.
Yeah, it's so true, like the balance, because like you can have too much of a good thing too.
Yeah.
You can go to the gym every single day, twice a day, and it will,
for sure. Yeah,
will
it's like
lead
anything.
to some kind of injury.
Yeah.
So like, how do you use and what kind of relationship do you have with this tool? Is a really good kind of self-reflection that people need to have.
Thank you so much, guys. This was an important conversation. I was happy to have it with you.
Thank you for having us.
You've been listening to Living Fully, a Calgary Counseling Center podcast. Thank you for tuning in. This episode was produced by Nick Here, Louisa Campos, Manuel Montano, Jenna Forbes, and by me, Catherine Hertig. A special thanks to Sarah Rosenfeld and Denis Sushkin. Tune in to our next episode on April 7th. We'll be talking about the difference between worry and anxiety.
It's really the idea of intolerance of uncertainty is really at the heart of worry and anxiety. I think worry in particular. When that's there, this like uncertainty theme, and we're having a hard time tolerating it, it just floods in all kinds of stuff for us. And I think when there is uncertainty, it's just, there's this reminder that there's actually just so much in the world that's beyond our direct control.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned that. Like there's so many factors involved and influences that can impact an outcome. And I think in just day-to-day life, we're often like confronted with the reality about like how our own power and influence to control things is actually limited.
To stay up to date on our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe. We're available in your favorite podcast app. Living Fully is a production of Calgary Counseling Center and recorded in Calgary on Treaty 7 territory. Living Fully podcast is not a substitute or alternative for professional care or treatment. Calgary Counseling Center and Counseling Alberta provide effective counseling to anyone in Alberta with no waitlist and no financial barriers. Find us online at calgarycounseling.com and counselingalberta.com. For help across Canada and the United States, call 211. If you are outside of Canada and the US, seek help from your general medical practitioner.